Dis hier onder.
Oh.
Dis onder die ding. Hy kan nie, sien jy, dis onder die strap. Dis daar.
O, okay.
Okay, nou sê jy plus. Okay, dit gaan nie werk nie. Okay, ons moet my foon uithaal. Hoe het ons dit nie gecheck nie?
Wag.
YouTube is live. Is there more on YouTube or is that just on my screen?
That's it. Sit maar net.
Yeah, in the middle of the screen.
Hello, hi everyone. Hello, good evening. We are just trying to get Instagram up and running. Then we are live, hopefully on 3 different channels. Whew, and I'm sweating. Oh, there's a copy in my phone.
Okay, Amina, say hi. Pamela, say hi. Amina, ze is consequent op Instagram here. We're
Yeah.
still working on Instagram.
We happen
Instagram
to
is live.
Instagram is live.
Okay, let me check. There's Ursula on YouTube says hi. Susan Nivo says hi.
Hello, Susan, Ursula, Janine, Facebook. Hello, Facebook.
Ask Jan if we're on Instagram. Is he sure?
Ah, it says 25 followers active now.
25 followers.
Click the middle button at the bottom, Jan.
Start. Oh.
Yes.
Trek die groen knoppie.
Die groen knoppie. Die groene.
Wow.
Okay, guys. My regular cameraman is in Pretoria visiting his girlfriend and working. So the husband Jan is here tonight. I don't know if you guys can see him. Hello. He's my cameraman, and we have a setup of note. I wish I could show you. It's the first time we've got all 3 cameras on one stand. And please excuse the what's it called? Proportions, if I'm a little bit this way and that way. We only just got this, so it's not really set up perfectly. We're just trying it out. Lisa's gonna tell me if you guys are asking anything. But if anyone is here for the first time, send us some love. Or tell us this is your first time so we can welcome you.
Vuyokazi is back on YouTube.
Hello, Vuyokazi.
And Judy Schroeder, also on YouTube.
Julie, YouTube, hello.
Janine says hello, Jan.
Hi.
It's her first time on Facebook.
Welcome, Yanine.
Lynn says I shouldn't get her and Amina in trouble tonight.
Oh yeah, well Matthew isn't here and you can't see him, okay?
And Amina says it's her first time.
Yeah, Amina, sure. Okay guys, for the newbies, let me
Please tell Jan to tap and hold the other comment. Not that one.
Wait, how do I find it?
Tap and hold.
Should I send it again?
Scroll, yeah, send it
Yeah.
again.
Jan just pin.
Wait,
Jan, tap and hold to pin on Instagram.
I'm doing it. Happening.
Okay, but
Done.
you gotta understand we have this
Sorted.
holder that's in the way of the screen, so you might have just tapped wrong.
No, I don't believe it.
User error.
Elizabeth on YouTube said it's her first time. And Wayne Smith says teach me something.
Wayne! How goes it? Okay guys, just for the newbies, let me explain what we normally do here, just so that we wait for a few people to join. I do easy, simple, new sewers, beginners sewers tutorials. So I know there's a lot of people asking me to do like pattern making or dresses or things like that. Unfortunately, the system we're running now, we cannot get past 2 hours without having to have so many batteries that it just doesn't work. So we normally do a short tutorial for about an hour, and then we do a Q&A, and in the Q&A you're welcome to ask me anything about sewing. If I don't know, I will get back to you. Someone did catch me out last week with asking if I've done shirring or smocking with shirring exact elastic. I've never done that, so I easily said that. I would not pretend to know something if I don't, but I do think that I know a lot about sewing and sewing machines, even pattern making. So keep your long questions that's got nothing to do with the tutorial that we're busy with for at the end. We try and have at least an hour of Q&A. But if you want to ask something about what I'm doing in the tutorial, please ask it. As I said, we have a new system. All the phones are up there, and I have Lisa online on the phone line sending or telling me your questions. So I don't know how the other people do this, because to me it feels like you need at least 10 phones.
Lifestyle Angel says it's her first time as well.
Hello, Lifestyle Angel. Welcome. Okay, so
Just tell everyone they can download the pattern at www.fabric8.co.za/insta-link. And I think if the phone's loud enough, they might be able to hear me.
it's /insta-link.
Yes.
Okay, so the pattern for tonight, it's not really a pattern, it's more of a cheat sheet. But last week's pattern, which we are finishing this week, is also here. It's www.fabric8.co.za, ne, Lisa?
Yes.
/insta-link.
It's also the pinned comment on Instagram.
It's also...
I'll post it in the other two places.
Okay, so it's pinned on Instagram. That's the and Lisa's gonna post it on the other channels. Now, if you're wondering the setup here, Lisa is my daughter. She is a partner in this business, and we have another partner. Her name is Jean Barnos, which is the hubby's sister. Lisa's the one that does all my social media and all our social media, and she is the one that is literally holding my hand doing all of these things, because as you can see, old person here. Matthew is her boyfriend, and he normally is here for the newbies. Don't let Lynn and Amina drag you down into the gutter. Matthew is my daughter's boyfriend, and he's normally my cameraman, and that's why tonight the husband is here. We are trying to figure this out all on our own. Okay, so just so I can explain last week's pattern, you'll see it's up there. I think it's called a roll up bag, something like that. I have one that's finished. So it's a little bag like this, and you can either roll it up, but we actually made it a fold up, and then it clicks closed. Now inside it, we have this little flap that keeps your pens and whatever in. And there's a bigger pocket there, and there's a little zip pocket nicely lined on this side. Okay, so we didn't have enough time last week to do the bias binding, and so I thought I'd do a whole tutorial, because we have the one that we did on the live that we can still bind, and I'll do a bias binding tutorial because I've had many people ask about bias binding. Okay, so Lisa, do you think we need can we start, or?
Just to repeat that if you guys have any questions, I'm pretty sure they can hear me. Like, we should actually ask.
Actually,
Can you guys hear me?
let me put this phone louder.
Last time they could hear me.
Okay, let's see.
Pinch thumbs up if you can hear me. Because then you don't have to
Okay.
Um,
Jan says there was a thumbs up.
okay, cool. If you guys have any questions throughout, send them in chat. On Instagram, we've got this nice feature where you can save your questions for later. It's in the bottom right-hand corner of the screen. If you save it there, we will answer it at the end of the live stream. But if you are on YouTube or Facebook, send it in chat. We're saving it somewhere else, so we will get Amanda to answer those questions later on. But send it as you think of it so that it doesn't leave your brain.
But if it's about the tutorial itself, you can ask away. Otherwise, put it in the Insta. It's a speech bubble with a question mark. And on the other two, on YouTube and Facebook, Lisa will keep those questions. She'll know if it's to do with the tutorial or not.
And then one more thing. Can you ask Jan if he sees the grey block on YouTube?
Yeah.
And
Yes.
if he can see how to remove it?
Yeah.
I said that
Yeah.
was happening and you guys said it was okay.
Does he not? Okay, well, if you can figure out how to remove it, then he should do that. And we can also see the chat in the YouTube on screen. I don't know if there's maybe a button you can see.
I don't think,
Otherwise, you can leave it.
I do not think you understand how impossible it is to work on the phone with the brackets on it.
Okay, it's fine.
We will have to figure this out. I don't know if phones are the answer here, actually, to be very honest.
I don't know how we managed to do that this time. We haven't done that before.
I
But
s-
okay, you can still see everything on YouTube, so it's fine.
I did say it was happening. I said there was a grey block. Every time I turn the phone, the grey block appears.
I have no idea. Okay, but we can start.
Okay. All right, guys, bear with us.
www.co.za/insta-link to download tonight's instructions and all our other patterns. And slowly but surely, we're going to start uploading the previous live streams onto YouTube. So if you are tuning in for the first time, we'll slowly be uploading our old live streams as well. But for now, we're live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. So don't miss out. And feel free to ask questions as we go along, and I will ask Amanda because she can't see the chat, but I'll interrupt her and ask. Okay, bye.
Okay, guys, so we're going to start at the real basics. So those of you who know this, please bear with us. Remember, there's people who doesn't know what a bias binding or bias means. So I did this in my classes always, simulating a fabric roll at the shop. So when you buy fabric, you buy it in meters, okay? And it comes on a roll like this, and when they cut, they're going to be cutting down here. All right? So on the sides of this roll, there is something that's called the selvage. Basically, it's the edge of the fabric, okay? So the selvage runs parallel, that's parallel with the grain line. So I always say to people, if you can keep, some people cut their selvages off. If you keep a piece of the selvage on your fabric, even if you're cutting, you know, you've now cut lots off this, but you still have a piece. Can you see on this one, it's nice because it's nice and white. But if you keep a piece of your selvage on your fabric, you will always know which side is the grain line. And as I said, the grain line runs parallel to the selvage. All right. So the grain line is very important. And if anyone who has cut out a pattern or anything will always, you will always see like a mark like that on a pattern, or even that one that does that. I'm going to lift this up now. So these two marks on patterns, that line is the grain line. That line is the grain line. So when you lay out your patterns, you are supposed to put that grain line parallel to the grain line on the fabric. And how do you get that? By looking at the selvages. The two selvages, that is your grain line. Okay, now if you want to go higher grade, when fabric is made, especially woven fabric, now remember we have previously talked about this, woven fabrics can fray like this. That's a woven. Okay? When woven fabrics are made, you have two sets of lines or threads or strings, whatever you want to call it. Okay? So when we start, I should have more paper. When they start, they will be lining up thousands and millions of straight lines like this. All right? And those are called the weft. Okay? I know this is higher grade. I know. But I have a way of remembering this that I never could remember when I was actually studying. So they line up hundreds and thousands of these little lines. Okay? And this line is called the weft. And the weft lines are your grain lines. Okay, so when you weave, we've all done this as kids, where you go over one line, over, under. Now that goes over, under like this. Then it turns. Over, under, turn. And so the fabric gets made. Now these, my way of remembering it, these horizontal lines are called warp lines. Or warp, I'm trying to write upside down. Okay, and I could never remember, it's like that stalagmite and stalactite. I just this afternoon, when I was looking at a picture again, to try and figure it out so that I don't sound like a fool when I talk to you guys, I thought to myself, okay, but this turn is warping the line. So that's how I remember it. I'll never forget it again now. Okay, so if anyone tells you, remember to know where your weft is, now you know. That is the grain line. That is the line that runs parallel to your two selvages. Okay, why do they use the word selvage? Well, the word selvage means that is the place that the machine uses, the machine that weaves, uses to turn around. So it never looks as nice on the edges, so they actually weave a little bit more, and they call it a selvage, so that the pattern only starts later, or when they're printing, so that they have an edge. So that, and also some companies actually use the selvage to print their company information on. All right, okay, so now you have, that's the very basics. Now, on this same roll of fabric, we have now, let me just put this on something so you guys can see, so that the color has changed. Okay, on this piece of fabric on the roll, we now have found the two selvages, and we know that the selvages runs parallel with the grain line. Okay, and the warp line will be going like this, and that is the weft. Now, at a 90-degree angle, anyone who did maths, that means 90 degree. Okay, now at a 45-degree angle, that is where bias lies. Okay, so it's very difficult to explain it like this, and that's why I got some fabric to show you how to find it. Okay, so if you have a piece of fabric and you don't have the selvages anymore, there is a way of finding. In Afrikaans, the grain line or the weft line is called a sterkdraad, which translates to strong thread. Okay, they don't have that in English, but when I was taught at school, it was called the sterkdraad, because if you pull on it like this, it has almost no stretch. Okay, while if you pull on your warp line, And that's another way of remembering it. You do have a little bit of stretch. You have a little bit of whoop. I sound like a teacher. Okay, so all you have to remember is that the one that doesn't stretch a lot, that is grain. And the one that does stretch a little bit, that is your swak draad, your weak thread. And in between, at the 45-degree angle, is your bias. Now, I want to show you, I just had that piece so you could see I want to show you on these pieces of fabric that this, there, that, oh, let me turn it nice side to you. Obviously, these birds are all upright, and lots of times if you have, this cannot be taken as a fact, but sometimes if you have directional fabric and the fabric has a specific upright, lots of times that upright is it's up on the grain. Because if we were making a skirt from this, we would want these birds to be upright. And if we were making a skirt, the grain line had to run down like this. So mostly, I think it might be different in some upholsteries, I'm not sure. Mostly, if a fabric is directional like this, and with that I mean the birds are all showing up one way and not those directionals, ne? Okay, so,
Actually, Belle asked, how would you taste that on fluffy materials?
on fluffy.
Yeah.
Fluffy, depending on what type of fluffy material it is. If it's fluffy but it's a stretchy knit, then it depends. See, if you're talking about knits works differently. It also has selvage, so you're gonna have to keep your selvages and make sure that you know where your selvage is. If it's anything knitted stretch, okay. If it's just fluffy, but I'm trying to think if there's a fluffy fabric. Well, there is. A woven a fluffy fabric would be something like velvet. I knew it was a V. Something like velvet is but I'm talking about the hard velvet. Now, I'm not talking about the stretchy. Remember, knit is something completely different. Okay? Knit will have little zigzag lines like this, and then those little loops just like a knitted jersey, just 1,000 times smaller, okay? But, so if it's fluffy and it's knit, you're gonna have to remember where your selvages was to get the actual grain line. If it's woven, this is the way, okay? So, if you can hear that, there is, it's sort of like when you shake out a sheet, it has a sound. While, if you do that, if you can see how the bird warps a little bit because it's actually slightly more stretchy, okay? So that's the strong grain, has no stretch. That's the weak grain, has a little bit of stretch. Now watch what happens if I pull, because this there is bias. Watch what happens if I pull on bias. Can you see how much stretch bias gives? And if you look, before I actually stretched it, it fitted there, ne? And I can stretch it. Can you see how much stretch I get on the bias? So that's a whole like 5 centimeters extra stretch. Okay, so that is the whole thing about bias. Bias, I think it's in the 19, I don't know, I can't remember. Might be the 1930s, but it's these, if you think about these classic movie posters with the, the divas, not divas, they weren't divas, what were they called? I don't know. But these classic movie posters where the woman has like those slinky, shiny, it almost looks like a very soft satin dress, and it sort of hangs just perfectly on her, and it's not tailored, and it hugs the figure. That whole dress is cut on bias, which is an absolute pain to work with. So guys, be professional or at least intermediate when you start working with dresses that are cut on bias. Okay, on the pattern, if you have a pattern, it will actually show you something like that, meaning this is grain, but this whole pattern needs to be cut on bias. Trust me, this is a higher grade thing. This is an advanced skill to be making clothes on bias. Okay, all right, so you'll see on my piece of paper, everything I've now explained to you is on that first little picture. Okay, so that is the cut edge. That's the edge where they actually cut the meter each off for you. These are called the salvages. The grain line runs parallel to it, and the weak grain or the warp is 90 degrees at a 90 degrees angle to the grain line, and at 45 degrees is where bias is. All right, so I have an itchy foot, sorry. Okay, so if you look at this, I tried to show you with a little pink line that's how I got that square. All right, so you're gonna know where your grain line, hello?
Why is it tricky? Does it slip?
No, it makes awful seams, because just like stretchy knit fabrics, you are trying to sew two fabrics that are not evenly stretching together. So if you think about a really badly sewn satin dress where all the seams pucker on a bias dress or bias skirt, though that puckering is even worse if you don't know what you're doing. All right. Okay, so I've cut an exact square. Okay, so it doesn't need to be this big, guys. Remember, you can have a square of 1 meter by 1 meter, or if you need a lot of bias binding, you can have, how wide is your fabric? 1.4 by 1.4 square. As long as it's a square, or as you don't have to cut the square if you understand bias and you know how to get it. But this is the way that you're going to learn how to get bias. Okay, so you're going to take a square, exact square of your fabric, and literally it's on the picture. You're going to take the one corner and you're going to fold it up, all right, like that, getting it as square as you possibly can, like that. Né? So now you have it's a handkerchief. All right, so that is question number 2, or picture number 2. All right, and then I recommend that you always have one of these. They are just great. I use them. I've never used the normal sewing or tailoring ruler ever again. And then
What are they called?
these are called quilting rulers. Oh, people, I don't know. I think something bit me on my foot. My
Luke wants to know, is that a new ironing board?
Oh, I was waiting. Yes. Is this not the most beautiful thing you've ever seen?
Lynn says you know what the next question is.
I made this, and these are gonna be for sale, yes, but I am not gonna tell you or Amina, because you guys are gonna push me into making them. I'm still working out the price, but I am putting it out there that this fabric on here, which I have some, I'll get it quick, is extremely expensive. So that's going to be a special limited edition, this one that we have there. And then I also have these available, or when it's available, these will be available. Okay. so I didn't want to get something too dark, and I also didn't want to get white because white gets dirty so quickly. And these are all bull denims, which is nice and strong and lasts. So yes, this is our new one. The other one was too big and too cumbersome. I'm actually using it as a stand for the camera now. This one I like, and also because it's not so high, because my table already is high. If I add height to it, I'm ironing up here. So this literally is just a little small ironing table. Okay, so
Ina asked, are you wearing a skirt?
I am wearing a skirt. It's very hot in the Cape Town. I will just give you a quick small flash. I was swimming to cool down. So I have a sarong on. I don't wear skirts. I don't have skirts. This one is falling off there. I only wear it when I'm swimming because it was so hot today that I couldn't breathe.
And then one more thing. Can you just say hi to the newbies watching, because a bunch of new people joined us. Just tell them what Live Tuesdays is.
Hello guys, newbies, Facebook, Insta, YouTube. This is Live Tuesdays. Every Tuesday I do a quick tutorial, and it's mostly for beginners and easy quick tutorials. We also do like gifting and small things that can be finished within an hour, because I obviously cannot do a live of 3-4 hours. So this today is a continuation of last week's project. Of this little bag that we made. It's a fold up bag, and it takes pens and whatever you want to put, and it also has this. So what we're talking about today is bias binding, and normally you can ask any question about the tutorial. While I'm busy, I'll answer it. If the question is about something else, we have a Q&A session at the end of the live tutorial, and I answer any question that I know the answer to about sewing. All right, but welcome and thank you for joining us. And also, I'm sure you guys all know, this is our company, Fabric 8. We are online creative supply store. If you need anything sewing, especially knitting and crochet, we have all the tools. We are never going to keep fabric. I'm putting it out there because I got a lot of people asking me for that. I have never struggled to find fabric. Fabric shops are everywhere. Okay, I have always struggled to find the tools and the tool upgrades that I need. You know, when you start out, you buy the cheap quick unpick, and then you want to get a better one and another better one. So that's our plan. Our mission is to have all the tools you need. And we will possibly by, I don't know, end of this year, start moving into crafts and all sorts of things. All right. Okay. So guys, what we did is we cut a square, and we have now folded it over. And now you are going to use your quilting ruler, and you are just going to, because this edge might be slightly warped. Remember I said the bias stretches, so it might be slightly warped. You're going to just draw a first straight line close to the edge. Okay, and from there you are now going to draw the width of your bias. Now we come to a different thing. Obviously, if you want to, we have quite a few bias binding makers on the website, quite a few different ones. I obviously have mine from before the shop, so they don't look exactly like the shops. But I want to show you a handy, nifty, almost like a cheat. Every time I want to make bias binding, I have to figure out how wide is the bias binding that goes into this one. Because unfortunately, this is inches. It's not necessarily centimeters. You do get some of them that are marked in centimeters, but a lot of them ain't. So what I did is I actually made testers. So that's the bias binding, and I put it into my kit to tell myself that on the biggest one I need to cut my bias binding 5.5 centimeter. So these are like my little cheat sheets. And on this one, I need to cut at 3.5 centimeters. And on this one, 2.5. And on this one, 1.8. Okay, so as I said, I mean, if you look at this one says 25. Okay, now I'm not quite sure. That is obviously inches, but it's like inches, not, it's probably 2.5 inches. Could it be? Possibly, okay? But that says nothing to me. I do not work in inches. I've never worked in inches. So that's why I did these little cheat things. And you know what? They look like would easily disappear, but I've had these for years, literally years. Okay, so I am going to start and let's make, I'm going to make the 3.5 centimeter one. So what do we need to do now is from that straight line that we drew, we are now going to draw another line 3.5 centimeters away. And another one, as many as you can or want. All right. And usually I would not be drawing this line. I would just be cutting with my rotary cutter. But I want you guys to understand from my pictures what's happening. All right. So obviously these little edges we're not going to use. We're going to try and use a bigger, longer pieces. All right. So now we're going to have that. And now we are just going to go back and take our rotary cutter and cut on the lines.
Hello.
Yeah?
John wants to know, is there a private bias binding book?
Yes, there is. And it's on the website. We also received our generic bias binding feet this week. And we only received 10 guys. They're all the way from China. So if anyone wanted them, they are back in stock. But we only got 10. We are waiting for more, but I don't know why I got 10. Don't ask me.
And then Nibbles Yawn says, we love your store. You always have the cutest and nifty little gadgets that make sewing more easy and enjoyable.
I'm glad you saying that, because I always say you can't sell something you don't believe in, and you can't have a business that you're actually not passionate about. And that's why I see new things and I go, oh, I need that. And then I go, oh, but you guys need that. Okay, so we've now cut them like this, but remember, because it was folded over, we have double now. Okay, but they are all loose bits. Okay, so obviously the bigger your piece of fabric is, the longer your bias binding is going to be. But if you look at the last picture, there we go. I also show you how to actually put them together and then sew it into a long strip. So you would take 2 bits and face to face, making a right. I know it doesn't look like, but if you think about that, if we sew there, it actually makes a straight line, okay? But your instinct, trust me, your instinct is going to go like, oh, I got to put these 2 together, and then I want to show you, then you are going to end up with a corner, okay? So you're going to go past your instinct and do them like this. Now, the other thing that I need to just say here is, people always ask, how many centimeters away from the edge? It doesn't matter. The more experience you get, the closer you can go. As long as the bit that's hanging over, if you can draw a straight line down there, and then you just keep that hanging over bit on both sides the same, and you are going to sew there. So I'm going to sew that quickly so I can show it to you. Just need to get some pins quick. And guys, many people ask me, why don't I use the fabric clips? Well, because after 40 years of using pins, it's very difficult for me to actually use the fabric clips. I just find that I'm quicker with pins. And it's like when I had to learn to use a computerized machine after working on a manual machine for years. It took me a while. I actually had to train myself. I actually had to sit down and sickle and suffer a little bit, because it is different. And so I haven't actually sat down and sickled and suffered a little bit with the fabric clips, which I know is better, but I haven't gone there yet.
But okay, because Len will promote the sewing clips in the chat for you.
I saw that, yes. Okay, guys, so we're not set up tonight for the machine to be in the camera. It will be hopefully next week. I'm just sewing. It's just a normal little seam. I just want to show you, and then next week I'll also show you my new baby. Okay, so that's that. Now you open it up like that. Perfect. And you iron it open. Why do you iron it open? Because we wanna reduce bulk. Always wanna reduce bulk when we're sewing. So we actually want, if we open up a seam, it has 2 single flaps going that way. If we close up a seam, it flaps a double bit of fabric, and that actually creates bulk. Now that's only important when you're working with something like bias binding or thick fabrics, but I always reduce bulk. It's just the habit. It's just better to do it that way. Okay, so now we have our piece of bias binding that hasn't been folded and hasn't been ironed yet, but however long you need it. So you're gonna take your bias. They all work the same. They look slightly different, but they all work the same. So you're gonna take your bias binding maker, and you're gonna go. I always use a pin for this. You're gonna put this little pointy bit in until you can see the fabric through this slit. They all have these slits. Once you can see the fabric in the slit, you're gonna I take a pin and I pull it through. All right, and then it's gonna come out the other end, and this little thing will make it come out all folded. So what are you gonna do? You're just gonna start by putting your iron right there, and as you pull it out, you're just gonna keep, this is really crappy fabric, so it's gonna have a pain. It's a pain to stay flat and ironed, and you're just gonna pull it out like this. And if you see it's going a little bit skew or wrong, stop and you can fix it. All right, so, and then you'll see when you get to your little bit where you've joined, it's sometimes, you see it pulls a little bit, so just help it, make it a little bit wider, just help it over that bit.
And what is that thing in your hand?
Oh, I don't know. This is my tiny baby, and it's called a Prim mini steam iron, and they are just freaking awesome. And I'm sure Lynn will tell you that. I don't know, where's Lynn tonight? Is she on Insta?
Yeah, she's on Insta.
Because this really is a little wonder. It is so nifty. My big iron and ironing board is packed away. I have not,
What's the name?
Prim mini steam. What?
Olaf.
I was waiting for Lynn to say its name. Okay, so we've nicknamed it Olaf. I don't think you should be doing that.
It's a fly.
Yeah, but I can hear it.
There's a fly.
My husband is spraying flies. Yes, that's the noise you just heard.
One fly.
Okay, so now if you see this is bias binding. So when you buy bias binding, this is what it looks like that, with the two little folds, okay? And normally one would actually fold it again, depending on the technique you're using for your bias binding, okay? So if you're using the bias binding foot, then you actually need to fold it in half again and iron it again. I'm going to come close to the phone just now. I'm just going to iron a little bit so that we have both, so I can show you guys. Just need to cut off there. The beginning always makes a little bit of a... Okay, so I'm going to show all the different cameras. Let's go Instagram. So that's what it looks like. I don't know what that means. Okay, so it's folded like that, and then if you iron it double again, it goes that way. All right. Okay, what's this? YouTube. That's just folded over. That's made those folds are made by the little machine, and then to get it ready for your bias binder maker, that's what it looks like. All right, and what are we here? Facebook. So that's what it looks like. Is it in camera? That's what it looks like coming out of the machine. I call it a machine, but it's actually a bias binding maker. And then fold it in half again for your foot, your bias binding foot. That's what it looks like. All right. Okay, so if you buy bias binding, obviously it comes on rolls. I love this width. What is this? I think it's about 2.5. Oh, I forgot. I like the 2.5 already folded over, so it actually starts as 4 centimeters folded down to 2.5 and then halved again, and you end up with about a 75 millimeter width. And the reason why I like them is because I quite like the fact that it gives you that contrast. So if it's too small, I mean, I don't know why I have this little one, because I would never use it. But I suppose there is instances where you want a little bias binding like this. All right, so for me to put bias binding around this little bag, I would start by getting I want to say a plus minus measurement. So actually more plus than minus. You know, measure a little bit extra. Okay, because I don't like working with a roll that's hanging, so I always cut it off. All right, so that's the bit I'm going to use for this bag. And because I'm going to use I'm going to try and use the bias binding foot to show you guys. I don't know if the bag's too thick. Because I'm using that foot, I need this binding to be ironed all the way in the middle. Okay. I'm going to show you guys how to put it in the foot. Okay, and then next week I'll do a quick one where we actually sew it, because Matthew's not here and he's the one that can move and walk around with the cameras to show us a close-up.
Yo, burn.
So I'm going to show you when I've done it all, how it actually goes into the foot, so that, and then, you know, sometimes lots of things are actually just, you got to do it. Don't start a project that's important and then go put your first bias binding on it. try bias binding just a square piece of fabric for one, okay? Interesting fact. You can do squares or 90-degree corners with bias binding, but you will get a fold on the corner. You can, however, easily bind a rounded corner without folds, okay? Why? Because remember what we said about bias binding is this is the folded bit, but can you see how it stretches? So it can stretch around a corner, which a straight piece of fabric can't do. All right, so I'm going to come closer.
There is some quick.
Yeah?
When do you use it on clothes? Sometimes I see they say on neckline.
Yes. It's called a bound neckline. So you can bind a neckline with bias binding, having it show a little bit in front and a little bit in back. You can also use bias binding by adding it to your neckline and then folding the whole bias binding back in and then just doing a line so that you don't actually have the binding showing on the front.
And then making it or buying it, is there a difference? Is it special or is it just convenient to buy it?
I'm sometimes a little bit lazy, and I would never go cut bias binding on a neutral plain color. I have bias binding in all sorts of colors. I can show you just for instance, there's a little heap. So if it's a plain color, I use the bought ones. The reason why you need to know how to make it is if you are doing something that you want the binding to be either maybe for instance, if I wanted the binding to be these little blocks, I had to make it because you wouldn't be able to buy it. So also lots of kiddies, like when you do baby blankets or something and you don't find a nice soft fabric to bind with, then you make your own binding so that it's not hard.
And then Daisel Sanet asks, do you meter the corners? Meter?
No, I understand miter. You don't need to miter the corners, because what you're going to do is if you're going around a corner, you will be sewing. Remember, if you're doing corners, bias binding is such a pain. I suggest you guys actually go watch a ton of videos on how to use this foot, because as a beginner struggling, you're going to struggle with the foot, because for instance, going around a corner with the foot is difficult. But there are different ways of putting bias binding on. Okay, and as I said, it is a trick that you need to practice. You will not get your first bias binding perfect unless it's an easy, simple top of a bag that's just actually a straight line or something like that. So you wouldn't miter the corners. I know what you're probably thinking about, how you do a quilt. Now yes, by mitering the corners, you would stitch to a point, then you would flip it up, but mitering the corners, you can't actually use your bias binding foot, because that is done in the process where you actually attach the binding by doing 2 different rows of stitches. So you'll sew this onto the fabric, and only that way can you miter the corner like you would in quilting. Okay, so this is, for instance, if you're doing like a children's, a burp lappie, what's this called? Borslap. Burp lappie, I don't know what it's called in English. It's not
A bib.
a bib, yes. Those are like all sort of semi-rounded. Those are easy to do. Around blankets are easy. As I said, I would, for instance, if I'm going around a corner on fabric, let me get a piece of fabric here in. I'm going to sort of put a piece of paper in there as the fabric. So if you're going around a corner, you would be sewing it like that. And when you get to the corner, you could just literally fold obviously easier on fabric than on paper. And get those little bits of corners. So in the end, I can show you up close. It sort of looks like a fake miter corner. It's difficult to show now. Whoops. So that's the dog food. I don't know if you can see because it's black, but it has a little fold down there. So let me get the other camera. I don't know if you can see it. Where? And there. So that's one way of doing it, but I would say that's the cheat way of doing it, because the other ways are just too much. I find, I don't want to sit and do bias binding for 3 hours. So it has to be an easy process. Okay, so let me. Okay.
What is meter?
Meter just means if you have a corner like this. So if you have a picture frame, that's the picture frame. Those corners are miter corners. Yeah.
And do you sell those bias binding made rolls?
No, I don't. If you, we are gonna get them. We just don't have them yet. But I can special order them for you in rolls. I can send you pictures of the colors available. They just not. We haven't ordered them yet because we have literally 100 products waiting to go onto the website. So we can't have more products waiting in line until we've got all of those products up.
Okay, I'll post the WhatsApp number in the chat.
Yes.
If anyone orders the bias binding.
Yes, but you have to buy the whole roll. I'm not, I just don't think that, I buy them in rolls because they are awesome and they work like a bomb. And I'm not going to be standing here measuring half meters and meters. That's just not, that's the same problem I have with fabric then. So if I ever get them, they'll be up in rolls. Okay, so yeah?
Hello, Odin. And you need to introduce them to Freya.
Yeah, I'll do a video tomorrow. It's if I go outside with these shitload of cameras, they are just gonna screw it all up. Trust me, they jump and get very excited.
Can't you bring them in? At the end?
No, no, the cameras. It's not possible. I'll take a video tomorrow, I promise, and we'll have it on our stories.
Then because we won't post it on our stories.
Oh, okay.
We have our WhatsApp group to see the video tomorrow.
Oh yeah, join our WhatsApp group.
You can find the link to our WhatsApp group at www.fabric8.co.za/insta-link. Everything is there always.
Okay, can I now proceed?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Okay, guys, this is going to be slightly more difficult, and as I said, we'll do a close-up at the machine next week. I really want to show you guys my baby. It's very pretty. Anyway, this is what the foot looks like. Is this close enough? Can anyone
Här.
For all of them, ne?
Ja, det är inget problem. Så mycket jag kan inte ta.
Okay, so this is what the foot looks like. I'm actually going to find a piece of black to put it against. Just give me a sec. Oh, now my dog is... Okay, I don't have black, but we can go red. Just so you can see the foot.
För det är mycket. Ja.
Okay, and you can see that it clips in. I'm going to stand like this. It
Yeah.
clips in like a normal foot.
Where?
This is not going to work, guys. Okay, so I am very sorry. I'm not going to be able to do this tonight, the bit with the foot. We'll do that next week. We'll have a long question and answer session now. I'm really sorry. It's just that, as I said to you, we have a new camera set up, and it is not possible to move it at the moment because I literally got it this morning. So there's wires and stuff. It's, what? Huh? But your father says no. So
No, I just said we
We
can.
can see.
okay, guys, I feel pretty stupid working like this, but I'm going to show you.
Bietjie hoor.
Where is my
Ja,
niece?
dit is waar die kamera kyk.
Okay, but that means I'm. How am I going to do this?
That's in the middle of the
You're
camera.
fine. You're fine. Just go.
I can't actually. Okay, so I'll try and keep it to my shirt. It has measurements here, and it has a little wheel that can turn in and out. I don't know what if it's turn. Oh, there we go. Okay, and you'll see that it actually makes this little gap here bigger as you turn it out, and that is where you need to fit your bias binding in. It actually needs to fit in there. So you're gonna fold it like this now. So you're gonna turn it open, and I'm closing it again. Open until this is, as I said, about 75 millimeters to a centimeter, so that it fits. See, it fits in. Okay, and then I just want to get something a bit closer. You will see, I'm going to go to all the cameras. You'll see that now it's in there, okay? So you need to turn this to get that back to hold it, okay? Same here. So now that it's in there, it's still loose, see? So you need to turn this to sort of force it against those walls so that it doesn't come out. Same here. You need to, this is still loose, so you need to turn this wheel to force this binding to stay against those little walls there. Okay, and if you look at it now, your actual fabric that you're going to sew, you just get a piece of fabric. Your actual fabric that you're going to sew is going to go in there. All right, it's a bit more difficult. So the fabric, see, is going to go in there. Look, in between, in that slit, and those little walls that I showed you here will keep your binding nice and straight. And you're just going to line up. Some of you will have machines that can move their needles. Just move your needle until it's about a mil or two from the edge of the binding. But I promise you, we will get back to that next week, because then I can also show you my new baby. Okay, so that is bias binding. Any other questions about bias binding?
Does that foot work on a brother A150?
Yes, this is a generic. Let me show you the difference. I'll get both of them quickly.
And then someone also asked, does the foot work on any other machine or just brother?
I'm gonna be with you in a sec if I can find the bias binding foot. Where do you think it's being hidden from me? Huh? I don't actually know. It might be sold out. Oh yeah, it is. Okay. So. Okay. So this. I don't know if you guys can see. That is the brother one. Okay. So that's the brother one. And this is the generic. It is obviously not the same thing. One of them I get from China. This one is from Brother South Africa. So this one is more expensive. This one isn't. This one I think is 85 Rand. I can't remember what the brother one is. That's the one type. And then brother also, let me show you, this one has this little binder foot that you use, and you don't have to, when you use that one, and I've never actually used this one before. I've used it on industrial machines, but it actually folds the whole binding for you. So you put it in like this. I worked on industrial machines with them. I think so, but this is gonna just do a small binding. I wonder if it says. It's not gonna do a big one. It's only gonna do possibly this one, which is the 2.5 centimeter one, which is this one, which in inches is the 12. And I'm assuming that's 1.2 inch. No, is it?
Inch is maar zoveel.
I don't know what the 12
Inch
is
is
for.
een duim, dat is een inch.
No, inch is there.
Ja.
This is an inch. I seriously should have thought about figuring it out. This is inches. Let's see. Because we have this one now. This one is a 12, supposedly. So let's see if it actually... I think it means 1.2 inches. That's what it means. Yes. I think so. I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong, guys. As I said, I refuse to work in inches because it confuses me too much. Alright, so yes, you can go look on the website for all of this. We will be getting more and more generic feet. I have an order in, but everything is taking so long. I am getting sets of rolled hem feet, but the rolled hem feet that I can get for the brother is it's a very small rolled hem. So I'm getting ones that make slightly broader rolled hems. I'm also getting, I don't know, I've ordered quite a bit. It takes almost 3 months or more to get to me. But I shall put them on the website. We are actually now putting lots of stuff. I received a big shipment from Japan. That's brothers from Japan. From China with lots of labels. There's really, really cool labels that we got in, especially for kiddies wear or kiddies stuff. If you know, making or knitting stuff for kids wear. What else is on there? Oh, and the Hulk is finally on the website with all the different dyes. Now I will populate the website with all the things like the eyelets and the stuff. I don't have them yet. I haven't ordered them yet because it took me a month to figure out which bits, which eyelets and snaps actually match which dyes, because I didn't want to sell you something that I didn't know myself. Okay guys, any more questions?
Yeah. Is it a one application foot?
No, this the bias. No, you take it off and you put it on again when you use it. It's like a zip foot. It's like any other feet. Oh, you mean yes? Okay, no, you can use it many times, but you can only use it for bias binding. Yes. I don't know which question you asked.
Any of those?
Yeah.
Do you use bias binding on armholes and hems?
You can use it on armholes and hems. They especially use bias binding on armholes and hems when you have a flare. I don't know if you've ever tried to do a hem on a flare or a full circle skirt. You always end up with those folds because the fabric gets wider and now it has to go smaller. So that they do hem use bias binding as hems. Lots of times they'll use the turn up bias binding. So you would let's get a piece of fabric again. If this was the fabric, you would actually, let's get a piece of this. Let me show you. Actually need a different color fabric. Just get a different color. Okay, here we go. Alright, so if you wanted to hem this, remember I said it's for, I mean you can hem anything. You can hem anything with bias binding, but it's especially helpful and works really well on a circle skirt or anything that's got a flare, because turning up that hem doesn't give you a perfectly flat hem. So what you would do is you would attach your bias binding, I want to say almost in the old-fashioned way, but in the normal manual way, which is you would line up, you would open this up, the one side, okay, and you would, I'm going to just pin a few so you can see. I don't know what I've done with I never have the pins with me. Okay, so, and you would sew your first line on that fold line. Now I'm going to do it quickly so I can show you guys, and then I'll come closer to show you. Okay, so let me show you close up. So if you can see that I've opened up that little fold on this side, and there I've opened it up and I've sewn down there. So now if you wanted to make a hem that is bound, that you can see, you would just take this back, turn it over and stitch that down again. All right,
Show it to these guys again.
okay, so if
Just
you
go
want,
that way.
if you wanted to bind the hem in a normal binding way with the binding showing, you would just curl it over and down and sew it down. If you wanted to make a bound, non-visible hem, I'm going to just do this one first. You are going to fold it back completely. Can you see that? I think the old school skirts might have had that, where it's bound like that, and then you can either hand sew that hem, but on the front you have no marks. If you hand sew, if you sew it down, you'll just have one line. So if you wanted a hem, you would turn this whole bit back so that it doesn't actually, it shows on the inside, but it does not show on the back. So then you could either do a edge stitch there that'll give you one line showing on the right hand side, or if you hand sew your hem, you will have no lines on the front. All right.
Okay. Then said earlier you said something you will hide it in the neckline. Why would you do that?
That's the last one I just showed. Because lots of times if it's like a very round neck, it's again very difficult. You can't really roll that in and make a neat hem, or you know, a neck hem, let's call it that, no? So lots of times our solution to that problem is putting a facing on that neck that flaps in. All right, so instead of a big facing, you could just use binding as a facing. So you're gonna apply it just like a facing. You're just gonna turn it right in. So if that is it, you're gonna turn it right in and either hand sew it down, or you are just gonna give it one line, which is perfectly fine around a neck.
And then also, in a nutshell, is there any reason, any purpose for bias binding other than decorative?
Well, we've just looked at two purposes. It is to edge a neckline or a hemline or a sleeve. If you struggling, if you know about sewing, you know that if you have a curve, so a curve or a flare, I don't know how to explain. Let me see if I can explain it on a piece of fabric. if I was trying to hem this, so normally what we do with hemming, né, is we fold 0.5, say, né? But can you see how what is happening? There's too much fabric, so it's making little pleats. So I can't actually make a neat, like on a straight line. It's very easy because I'm gonna fold 5, and I'm gonna fold whatever else, and there, that's perfect. But try that on a curved hem. You can't actually. You struggle to get it to look neat. So curved hems, sleeve lines, especially if you have a flare, it can be decorative. Mostly it is decorative. If you look at our project, for instance, these edges are not pretty. So they need to be, as the pattern asks for binding. Yes, it is decorative on this bag, but it also has a purpose. Okay, so to make this bag with no bias binding, we have to do that pillow or lining, lining a bag thing where we sew it and then turn it out and have a hole and close the hole. Yes.
The one YouTube video showed that the bias folded over in the foot and they sewed it onto the fabric as a hem. She wants to know, does this foot do that?
I wouldn't know. You would have to send me a picture on that WhatsApp number, and I could check for you. Okay. I don't know what did the foot look like. Did it look like this plastic bit with the wheel, or did it look like this silver, almost like a ice cream cone that stands up?
Sorry, I'm just sending that number first. Okay. What would happen if I used my non-Ceralock thread and non-brother feet on my brother?
Bad things.
So no, non-Ceralock thread, nothing much except your machine might have to go for a service quicker than it needs to, or it's gonna throw a tantrum and you're gonna think it's broken, and you're gonna forget that I said it's just cheaper to buy more expensive thread. So nothing really. The only thing you have to check with using non-brother feet is that all feet have a hole where the needle goes through. That's so obvious, because if it was a piece of metal and there wasn't a hole, the needle could not go through the foot. So you need to attach the foot, and then with the hand wheel slowly bring down your needle and see that it easily goes through the hole. It should not touch the side of the metal. It must go easily into the fabric through the hole of the foot, because that is mostly what happens when you have a foot that doesn't really work on your machine, is that first step on the pedal and you break a needle because it actually hits the foot and it doesn't go through the hole. So as long as you check that before starting to sew, you should be okay with any feet. I have sewn on Bernice's, Brothers, Singers. I've never sewn on a Janome, but I hear people say it's a lot like Elna, so it doesn't really, yeah. Benina, the older Beninas, I don't know about the new Beninas, they take very special feet. You cannot put a generic foot on them. But mostly the modern Singers, the modern Brothers, the modern Elnas, and the modern Janomes, and with saying modern, I mean, let's go with the last, let's go 10 years, but it could be less on some machines. The last 10 years machines, most of them do actually take the exact same feet. But that is a statement that I will not admit to if your machine breaks because you didn't do the test that I just told you about.
Can I use a generic foot on a Bernice machine?
Okay, So, Bernina, as I said, Bernina and Burnett is the same company. I do believe, I don't know, I haven't ever worked on a Burnett. I do believe that Burnett lately also takes these clip-on feet. If it takes the clip-on feet, just do the test. Check that the needle goes through the foot. If it takes the Bernina foot, the new Berninas, the smart big Berninas, they all have a very specific foot that actually attaches by, there's a bit that comes down from the machine, and the Bernina foot goes like this, and then it clips on. That cannot take a generic foot, no.
So expensive thread helps your machine work better.
Expensive thread is like, yes, it's the best thing for your machine. And it's not expensive. Ceralon costs about, well, in our shop it costs 25 Rand for 1,000 meters, okay? But that's 1,000 meters of no hassles and no pains and no skip stitches and no tension issues. None of that. 25 Rand, okay? So you're gonna buy a pack. I always say, if the thread is in a pack of more than one, that is those nasty chips and sweets at the Pick and Pay counter. Walk away. Don't look. Don't buy. Okay? There is a reason why from one brand you get 5,000 meters spools, 5 spools, and of another one you only get 1. There's a reason. Not because this person is super rich and making more money than this one. He's spent more time in development. He's tested on more machines. He's made sure that that thread is compatible with most machines. There are more expensive threads. Ceralon is not an expensive thread. Ceralon is not a cheap thread.
Spending thousands of rands on your machine. Why
Yeah,
would you
well,
save 10
you know,
rand on
if you spend 8 to 10 to 12,000 Rand on a machine, why would you run a 2 Rand 50 thread through it? It's just, you're gonna, yeah. You know what? I always say to people, I've sold lots of machines, and I get a lot of people asking, you know, like, I don't know, some people sew a year with the machine, and then they go, oh, my machine is, and every time this happens, I get like, I go, oh, it's a guarantee problem. I instantly go, because I hate selling things that don't work. So I instantly go, oh, the machine, there's a problem. And then I go through the list. And if you ask me on WhatsApp, you'll get the same list. And the list is, are you 100% sure that there is Ceralon top thread and Ceralon on your bobbin? Okay, so if you want to run cheap thread, at least have 1 spool of Ceralon, so that when your machine gives you problems, you can test it with Ceralon. And I get people that go, yes, it's Ceralon, yes, I checked it. And then they bring the machine to me, I put Ceralon on it, and whatever their problem is gone. So it's thread, needles, threading. Even if you think you have done this 1 million times, you've been sewing for 40 years, if your machine starts skipping stitches or making funny stuff just suddenly, it might have jumped out of one of the little things you threaded through. It's not you who didn't thread it right. Sometimes it just happens. So I get so many people telling me, I have rethreaded it. And then in the end, it's one of those, it's always thread quality, threading, and needles.
In your experience, what is the best machine?
In my experience,
Or for beginners?
yeah. Okay, my experience, I have sewn on anything, and I obviously would buy, I wouldn't buy something that I don't believe in. I feel like it's a toss-up in quality after sales service, and price. So you need to get all those three things at a reasonable place. So you can get a cheap machine, so the price is here. The quality is just above price, and the after sales service is below the price. That's not a cheap machine. That is a machine you're gonna have to throw away if it breaks. So I've used, as I said, I've still got my Bernina. I've had 3 or 4 Elmas that I've sold. I've worked on singers, new singers, and new Berninas. The reason why I choose Brother, because I also have a singer dealership, is that the price and the quality to me and the after sales service that I get for my machines, meaning how many guarantee issues do I really pick up? I have not had one. I've had one on a embroidery machine, and let's not even go there because I don't think it was a machine problem. But we won't go there. It was a user error problem. Okay, so I have had no guarantee. Oh geez, I need to touch wood. I have never sent a machine back that needed to be going back for guarantees. I have sent one back for guarantee issues 2 days before the guarantee ran out. I'm going to say nothing more.
Okay.
There was a reason for that, yeah.
Amina asked, take a machine in PE to have it serviced.
Sorry?
Where can she take a machine in PE to have it serviced?
Amina, I actually don't know in PE. What I would suggest is that you can contact Brother South Africa, and they're going to ask you where you bought your machine, and then you're going to say Fabric 8, and they're going to go, you have to go, but ask them for I should actually try and get a list. Oh, that's going to be so lovely to do that. Amina, let me look into that. I'll try and see. You have the A150, né?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So any normal sewing machine technician can work on your Brother sewing machine. Okay. It's not a specific. When does it become specific? When we are working with embroidery machines and the big machines and the industrials or the PR range. That's when your technician needs to be, because now we're talking about Brother hardware, software, and the whole package built onto it. While these, anything up to, I would say beyond the E800, can be serviced by any normal sewing machine technician or a good sewing machine technician. So I would go onto forums or some Facebook pages there in your area and see if you can get people to actually comment who is the best technician. Now, just for interest's sake, you do have a 1-year guarantee on your Brother machine. So, if you work, let's just go with the word a shit ton. What is that? 100 or more garments a week. You're going to need to have your machine serviced before the year is out. If you are not working that much on that machine, you will only need to service it once a year.
And then Len and Amina both asked how often do you need to service it?
Okay, that's what I said. Okay, so depending on how much you work, it absolutely depends on how much you work. So I always say to people, if you work a lot, say you have a small, I want to say 1-person factory, and you're working with your domestic machine all the time, you have no no industrials that's taking a little bit of the work off your domestic. If you work a lot, every 6 months. If you work normal, never. I would say if you work your machine, this is so difficult to say. As I said, if you work your machine up to 100 garments a week or pieces, I would say once a year. Anything less than, say, you make 2 or 3 garments a week, you need to go, still need to go once a year. If you go more than 100 pieces, I'm not talking like full dresses, né? I'm talking about then I would say every 6 months. But I have also spoken to technicians that say if there's nothing wrong with your machine, you don't need a service. Yes, I've actually been in a shop with my machine once, years ago. Not years, it was probably about 8 years ago, yeah. And I said to them that I'm bringing my machine in for a service, and she said, what's wrong with it? And I said, nothing, I'm just bringing it in for a service. And she said, it doesn't need a service if it's working perfectly. It is very difficult. As soon as you notice some tension issues, timing issues, meaning your stitches are not looking like they should, you're getting skipped stitches, and you do have the right needle and the right thread and the right threading, then I would say get a service. That's why also if you work a lot on your machine, you need to, I always say to people, as soon as you start changing your little home business into a little home factory, you need to take the hard work off your expensive domestic machine. Now, 8,000 Rand is maybe not an expensive domestic machine in everyone's eyes, but it is not a industrial workhorse. So it is an expensive machine in the sense that it can do many things. And if you break the machine, it can't do those other many things anymore. So as soon as you get to a point where it's a small one-person factory, I always say get yourself a straight sewing industrial machine to take all of your straight sewing off your domestic machine. And then you use your domestic machine for things like buttonholes, for things like bias binding, even though you can put bias binding on with a straight machine, for things like that, for intricate work, for precision work. So if you're working a lot and you're making, I don't know, 200 burp lappies every week, I would start thinking of an industrial straight stitcher.
Okay.
I don't know if I answered the question.
Where do you have to go get your brother machine service to not mess with the warranty?
That is a very good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know if... Who is this asking it?
Lynn.
Lynn and Amina. Guys, can I'm gonna speak to the to brother tomorrow. I've never actually had this that someone wants to actually service the machine before the year's out. I've never had it. So let me speak to brother and then ask me that question again next week. Let me just ask them if it will void the guarantee, or who should be fixing it or servicing it for a guarantee. Again, there is this thing of the difference between a warranty and a guarantee. But I'll get the deets on that. I'll speak to brother tomorrow. I've never actually had, as I said, I've never actually had someone wanting to service the machine before their guarantee was done.
Can you run a large button or foot?
Can you what?
Or a generic one that makes big buttons?
Is the brother one not big enough?
I assume so.
No, that's when you have to do the old-fashioned manual buttonhole. Go Google that. Where you do it with the zigzag, 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 zigzag. Yeah.
What's between serial line and
Okay, Gutermann is actually more expensive than Cerulon because it's a much smaller little spool. And Gutermann, you must be sure that you're buying what you want because you get 100% cotton Gutermann. Remember, cotton is a very if you dyeing stuff, you would want to use cotton. Say you're doing cotton t-shirts and you dyeing it, you would want to use like a cotton thread because it takes dye in the same manner as the cotton t-shirt. But mostly we use a polyester blend thread. And Gutermann, there's different types of threads. There's like silk, and we don't even get all of them in South Africa. Gutermann is fine. It's a perfect thread. You won't have issues with that. I just think that I don't like Gutermann because if you're doing the last time I bought that was when I was studying, and I had to buy 5 or 6 times. I had to go back and get more thread because I didn't realize how little is actually on that little spool.
When do you oil your machine, and then also learn also post a reel on how to clean your machine? I will do that one next.
Okay, so if you did not get oil with your machine, what does that say? If they did not give you oil to use on your machine, it means you do not need to oil your machine. The technician will. Okay, so I see a lot of people, I see machine oil going out of the shop every day, and I always hope and pray, not that that will help, but that people are using this on old machines who actually did get a little bottle of oil with their machine.
What needles do you recommend?
Schmetz.
Yes, I'll post that in chat now.
Schmetz. I've used quite a few different ones, and these people, let me tell you something. If you buy a Singer sewing machine or a Janome, or it won't happen with Brother, but Janome, I know Singer does this. I've seen a Viking, I think. And the person who sells you the machine tells you that you can only use Singer needles in your machine. Please don't fall for that. Okay, that's like buying tires for your BMW only at BMW. Okay, all the tire places can get your BMW's tires. You don't need to buy from BM. Okay, so if their machine says your machine is a Singer, you don't need to buy Singer needles. You're gonna buy the best needles you can afford. Which is hopefully Schmetz.
What is the best tip to draw an armhole on a pattern?
Are you guys talking about using French curve and all of that? You practice. I had a class one day when I was studying, and we had this one-time lecturer. Our lecturer was, I don't know, ill or something, and so we knew our lecturer very well, and she was so easy to work with. And then this chick came in, a lot younger than me, obviously, and in class they used to draw the patterns, and we would just go and freaking do the same thing as fast as we can before we forget. And this chick was just drawing fast with one hand, drawing a sleeve hole, and we all just stood there gasping, thinking, okay. And we asked her, how do we do this with a French curve, and we have these curves, and we have a this, and we have a this, how do you get? And the best advice I ever got was, she said, you draw it until you get it, because there's going to be a day when you don't have your French curve with you, and you're going to look the fool because you can't draw an arm curve or a sleeve curve. So I don't use French curves at all, so I cannot even begin to tell you how to draw a sleeve, an armhole or a sleeve, because I just draw it like that.
Muscle memory.
Yeah. So my suggestion would be, Google it, see how other people do it. But as soon as you can, it's like the hip curve. You don't need a hip curve ruler for a hip curve. It's just a curve. Just draw the curve. Test it. Do it. Draw it. Use a hip curve if you want to practice to get the shape, but you need to be able to draw it.
Thank you for another amazingly informative evening. I really appreciate the time and effort you put into these lives.
Thank you. Thank you.
What would you say about an imbecile machine without bashing it? I added the last part.
If it comes out of the box working, be glad.
Oh no, you can't say that. Okay, last call. Any more questions, guys?
If you still have the slip and you can take it back, do that. If you have no choice and it's a machine you got from someone and you have bought it and it's out of guarantee, you work the machine you have until you can afford a better one. But please, I'm not going to repeat that name of that machine. If you are buying a machine, you will be better off buying anything except the new MP-Sickles. Old ones are great. The old ones, I can show you one that's 40 years old that works better than my Benina of 40 years. The new ones, I don't know what's happening. They are smoking something in that factory.
Ask any more questions? Last call for questions.
Okay, so guys, we have 5 more minutes. Questions. Any questions? Now is the time.
And then last week, and I hope Jan can hear me, we promised the live stream we'd get Jan to come do the Macarena for us.
I know nothing. I can tell a joke.
No.
No, I know a good joke.
No, you can't.
Can't tell a
No
joke.
jokes.
No.
He has to know.
No, I'll tell a
It's very
joke.
specific request.
I don't know who it is. There's a few gutter snipes on here.
Gutter snipes. Yeah. Yeah.
There's 1 or 2 gutter snipes on here.
Yeah.
And I think that word comes from My Fair Lady.
Probably.
Huh?
Probably.
Yeah.
Wimping
book.
out.
Hmm?
Is he wimping out?
I'll tell a joke.
No, you
No,
can't.
I
We
know
can't
good
trust
joke.
you with jokes.
You can trust me with this joke.
No.
I had to tell a joke on screen the other day. Okay, I'm going to tell my joke.
Do the Macarena while joking about it.
Now I'm going to tell my joke.
Oh, jeez. No.
And you get bonus points if you know where this joke comes from. So the mama tomato and the 3 little tomatoes are crossing the road. And the one little tomato keeps on falling behind.
Why have I heard this?
So the mama tomato goes to the little tomato and she squishes him and she goes, catch up.
I'm pretty sure he told that joke last week.
On skills.
Yeah, you get a bonus point if you
Yeah.
know from what movie it comes though. It's from a famous movie.
You can tell which people on our WhatsApp groups listen to us and actually tune into our live streams because Rudy said let Jan tell a joke.
Rudy, thank you man.
Who's Rudy? Is it Rudy?
Ons Rudy.
Is it?
Yeah, Rudy knows I know lots of jokes.
You get all 2 hours or if you just tuned in at the right time.
Okay, guys. Any questions? 1 more minute. No?
Rudy, let us know if you can sew now. It's such a dad joke. Dad jokes, man.
Yes, absolutely.
I think we might be out of questions.
Yes. Okay, guys. Then I can go eat. But first we have to save and link and freaking you know what else to get these 3 pictures.
Everyone, leave a like, leave a comment.
Like,
subscribe,
hearts me.
go to
Send me hearts. Send thumbs up. Hey! Valentine's! Give me some love! Nobody said happy Valentine! That's just rude, Lynn! Amina! Never again! You have ruined the friendship!
Before you leave a comment, please. It helps our little business grow.
Yes, please.
Facebook and Instagram and YouTube shows our stuff to more people. Leave a like, leave a heart. And then tune in again next week.
If you want to be on the WhatsApp group, we have two. We have one with updates, meaning you will get reminded from on Tuesday afternoon that we have a live. And updates like new stock loaded. It won't be this picture, all the new stock. Just reminders. And we also have a sewing WhatsApp group. This is a group for chatting people. So don't join if you don't like chatting on a group. You are welcome to just sit there and listen. You are welcome to add. I want to just specify one little thing. I don't have a problem if you have a business that you're going to advertise on the group saying, for instance, I fix sewing machines. I don't have a problem. But if you are advertising on my group, I need to see you partake and answer questions. So for instance, if you fix sewing machines, I need you to answer the questions of the people having sewing machine issues. Otherwise, you are just using our group to advertise. That's not going to happen. So, join the group. It's lots of fun. I get to my computers in the morning and there's like 28 messages. It looks and leave if you don't like it, or put it your notifications on silent. You only have to go look at that. It's an awesome thing to do while you're trying to get to sleep in bed. It's like a long story you can read.
Pamela says the show is just getting better and better. Good work, guys.
Oh, thanks, Pamela. That's awesome to hear. I sit on this side and I'm checking 3 little eyes, 3 cameras, all in different positions, and I see no one. I'm all on my own, son. The husband is there, but I have to look at the cameras. I can't be looking at him.
And Soyi says she's new to sewing and so happy she joined the live and the WhatsApp group, and she's so happy she found us.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear that. Guys, please tell us if you like what we're doing. If I piss you off, tell me that too. If I'm offensive, tell me that. I will not learn. I will not know if I do things that I think is okay and you guys don't like it. Please tell me. I'm never too old to learn, and I would love to learn new things, and I would love to learn things about people also. So if I offend you in any way, please tell me that. If you have ideas for us, comment them. Tell us in the comments. If you see a post, if you see something, tell us you want this. I've been looking for this everywhere, or I'm so glad I found this.
And forward stuff to us on Instagram. Some people have started doing it. Forward us cool tutorials and stuff you see. I'll share it to our stories, or products that you want us to stock, or some weird like ad that you saw and you're like, ooh, this looks cool. We can
Yes.
you. We don't know.
Yes. And also show us what you're doing. Whatever you make, if it's a freaking scrunchie or if it's a tailored suit, show me. Show me.
But that's
We
also
need to
what-
go, guys. This camera is already flickering.
That's what's so nice about our WhatsApp group is you get to share all your sewing projects with people who understand how difficult it was to make.
Yeah.
We do, like on Fridays every now and then we do like funky projects Fridays, and everyone shares their interesting projects, and it's really fun to see.
Yeah, and it's also how you learn new things. You see something, you like it, you think, how did you make that? Show me. Help me.
You can also oil your tractor with this.
Okay, guys, this is it. We're done. See you next week with a brand new project, but also a close-up of this foot. Okay, I'm sorry about that. Thanks. Over. Huh?
Like he's gonna be able to stop the lives immediately. Now he's gonna figure out how to exit all the channels.
Okay, so I'm gonna give the camera. Hier so ja, vat dit en praat met Lisa. I will stand here smiling smiling till you're all gone because now it takes half an hour to switch all the.
Okay.
Top right corner.
Top right.
Say bye to Instagram.
The little cross.
Bye Instagram.
Bye.
Bye Insta!
Klik end. Ja. Okay, nou wacht net met hom. YouTube, I stop on my side, I'm pretty sure. Bye YouTube.
Bye YouTube!